Remember the game that was so overly gory that it was banned from being released? The game that created a generation of over-the-top horror games. That game came out in 1996 with an original story about an upside-down version of a school with murderous apparitions titled Corpse Party. But it's not really a series. I mean, it kind of is, because there's a bunch of spin-off media, but I wouldn't really factor it into what is a series. There's no sequels, it's just the base game, plus remakes, plus mobile games, plus visual novel side stories. It's all just money grab bags stemming from one single title released in 1996, besides some manga and light novels, which I think are actually decent. But even the initial writer who headed the first game, Makoto Kedoin, wasn't directly involved much anymore with the side stories that came out a decade later, which makes sense why they didn't do as well. I tried to look into what happened and why nobody made more games, and I kind of found my answer. But before I go further into this video, I want to say that Corpse Party just got announced to have an actual sequel as of last month. This is brand new, fresh news, and I'll get to that in a moment for people interested. Firstly though, I want to give some background on the series. On this channel, we only cover games that fall inside indie territory, and I want to clarify that most Corpse Party games aren't technically indie, but the actual core series is completely independent, and that's what I'm talking about here. The first game was an RPG Maker indie game. Before it blew up, the same indie team who worked on that made the 2008 remake, and that is where the blow up began, spawning a huge cult fanbase. But everything after that got a larger and different team with more funding, leading to the next titles not being independent. And the irony is that the games that came after were reviewed with worse scores overall and poor general reception. And for the people who know a little bit about Corpse Party in general, yes, there is technically a Corpse Party 2 on Steam that exists, but it is not a sequel. It came out around 5 years ago and only has one chapter. As in, it's not a full game, it's not even an early access game, it's just an unfinished work in progress that never went anywhere. But that game, titled Corpse Party 2 Dead Patient, was developed by the actual original team from the first game, and was a passion project and the first indie game the series saw in modern day. Now, Corpse Party 2 Dead Patient does have good reception, besides the fact that people paid for a game that never came out. The story is about a high school girl named Ayame waking up in a hospital on an operating table, but the building around her has been flipped inside out and is crawling with monsters. There's not much more than that to be revealed, but it was supposed to connect to the original story somehow. By this point, I would have just thought that Dead Patient is cancelled, now that an actual sequel to the first game got announced, but the announcement of the new title also came with a Twitter post from the developers that says that Dead Patient is still actually in the works, which is also the first news on that game in a while. But the new title will not stagnate like Dead Patient. It has a set due date of 2024, it's headed by the original team and the main scenario writer of the original game, Makoto Kedoin. It's called Corpse Party 2 Darkness Distortion. In an interview, Makoto states, "We've created a new canonical sequel to the Corpse Party story titled Corpse Party 2 Darkness Distortion. It is a true sequel to the series. It's also revealed to be a completely new location, although the promo art of the game looks to be a doll on an operating table in a hospital." So I wonder what they mean by that, or if it's going to relate to Dead Patient somehow. The doll on the cover has a knife through their chest, and blood is coming out of it. A second promo art shows the same thing, but much more highly detailed, with the doll being decayed in a year's abandoned surgery room. It's also mentioned by the developer that they've been working on the game for 2 years by this point. They also say, "We'd like our fans to look forward to a new world of Corpse Party 2 that will be wildly different from Corpse Party 1 and the previous PC version of 2. Which is to be expected because it's the first sequel the game has gotten that will be AAA and funded by Mages, the production company behind it, with the original writer plus the main team. I assume it's going to be much more grand scale and I'm excited for it. There's been little to no information besides those quotes and the initial announcement, so we'll have to wait for more down the road. That's what we got so far though. I'm glad the original creators are heading their new games again, rather than just being involved with them. Darkness Distortion is the long-awaited sequel that's finally coming after 2.5 decades, and I think it has a good chance of resurrecting Corpse Party into a modern series. That's what we got so far though. I'm glad the original creators are heading their new games again, rather than just being involved with them. Darkness Distortion is the long-awaited sequel that's finally coming after 2.5 decades, and I think it has a good chance of resurrecting Corpse Party into a modern series of actual popularity in the horror genre. Thanks for watching all the way through if you did. This was a quick recap on what's been going on with Corpse Party. If you like the premise of the video, let me know in the comments. I wanted to make more news videos on anything of importance in the indie scene or on announcements in general. Feel free to like and subscribe, it helps us out a lot. Thanks again, and I will see you later.